Cassie is one of the most popular protagonists in FNAF franchise, but her popularity is a fascinating case. She is popular not only because she is compelling, relatable, or easy to empathize with, but also because of how Gregory has failed as a protagonist. This video is about Cassie, but the context of how Gregory was faring before her is important. As a protagonist, she holds fine by her own, even if she is not the most complex character. But her qualities begin to shine when Gregory enters the chat. Unfortunate for Gregory, fortunate for Cassie. We must begin with a broader question. What actually makes a good protagonist, or just a compelling character in general? There are plenty of different qualities that can help us to establish the connection with the protagonist, and I will give examples of those that I think are more important in case of Cassie and Gregory. Do we understand what moves the protagonist forward? Has the game successfully showed us why we do what we do? It is much easier to empathize with a character if we understand what motivates them. What character traits the protagonist has? Is the protagonist naive, bratty, stubborn, vengeful? Negative character traits are not necessarily a bad thing for a protagonist to have. They can be entertaining, but either they must have some other characteristics as a counterweight, or we must see a reason or a justification why the protagonist is the way he or she is, either from the beginning or as the story will move forward. The last important thing for our case, at least for now, protagonists better show emotions throughout the story. If a character doesn't feel anything, then why should I? These are only some of the fundamentals that can make a compelling protagonist, and we can move forward with this. But to fully understand the contrast between Cassie and Gregory, there's another important piece of this puzzle that can't be dismissed. Each story has antagonists. Antagonists who can have personalities and stories of their own. If a protagonist lacks the ability to be compelling and doesn't show much emotions, and doesn't have a convincing motivation for his or her actions, then what will happen if the antagonists show everything of the above? What happens if the antagonists appear to be very human and gather a lot of sympathy? Well, then you get the situation Gregory and Glamrox are in. I won't go too much into the details here, because we are here for Cassie and I have a full-fledged video that was dedicated to Gregory. But as I said, context matters. Gregory has failed to make a good protagonist, or better to say that Security Breach has failed to make him one. But what Security Breach has done more than successful is that it humanized Glamrox so much that it gave a lot of players a feeling that Glamrox were completely wronged and deserved much better. It isn't bad to make you feel bad for antagonists. It can lead to interesting story dilemmas, but it better be not at the expense of the protagonist. If the player doesn't feel right when doing certain actions, and the protagonist doesn't help with it, while antagonists gather sympathy, then it can lead to, at best, disinterest in the protagonist, and at worst, contempt. What a perfect ground it is to introduce a protagonist who will try to set things right. Gregory never had a proper introduction, nor consistent goals throughout the game. We don't know who he is until finding out in the bad ending that he's an orphan. We don't know how he got here, or what happened to him that made him hide inside Freddy. In addition, his wish to escape is so inconsistent that you may begin to question if he knows something you don't. One moment he wants to escape, then he wants to upgrade Freddy and take revenge on Glamrox, then he wants to escape again, then he suddenly remembers about disappearances and wants to save everyone. Most of his goals don't evolve from one to another, they just appear on a whim, sometimes even contradicting each other. I guess the only exception here is when Gregory sees the blueprints in parts and service and comes up with the idea of upgrading Freddy. But yet again, it contradicts his previous plans of hiding and escaping, and amplifies the risk of him dying without showing us why would he take this risk. While yes, it is most likely because of Security Breach's development hell, it makes him appear irrational and shady. It's not like he doesn't have a reason to be scared and irrational, but it's not communicated to us, the players. Unlike Gregory, Cassie's goals and background are being established in the first 10 minutes of Ruin, and they will get expanded upon moving forward. She is here to help Gregory, who she believes is in trouble, a simple goal that shows us that Gregory must be a very important friend of her, since she is ready to go to such lengths after him. To better connect her with the player, Cassie is being established as a fan of Roxannewolf, one of the most popular Glamrox among the fanbase, and as a fan of Fazbear brand as a whole. To give us an explanation to why she is a fan, we get hints that it runs in her family, as Cassie's father is a Fazbear technician, a big fan of Fazbear brand for a long time, and a fan of Glamrock Bonnie in particular.
A fast wrench. It's just like my dad's.
The AR mask shows to the user a more comforting reality for the mind, and Cassie sees the Pizzaplex as a much brighter and cheerful place than it is right now. This place and its inhabitants are important to her. A good way to connect her with the player, because at this point the Pizzaplex is a place that is loved by many players and almost feels like a character in its own right. Connections and the background of the protagonist are good and all, but wouldn't it be even better if the protagonist tried to fix the consequences of someone's actions taken earlier? Actions that the player probably didn't agree with, didn't understood, or just felt bad doing. Having no motivation or a shaky motivation is one thing, but when a protagonist does something the player doesn't like and shows no emotions or shows negative emotions, that's already a bad sign. Security Breach gives the player several clues that Glamrocks are just victims in this story. The player will probably understand it, and this will conflict with Gregory's understanding of the situation. Not only that, but Gregory goes full on against it, and does it in a cold and almost cruel manner.
What? All they've done all night is try to hurt me! They get what they deserve.
I think I don't need to say how Cassie does an absolute opposite of that, basically doing everything most players wanted, and it fits with her background. We can see from her interactions that first, she is not really surprised by Glamrocks being aggressive, probably because of the events of Escape the Pizzaplex. And second, she doesn't hold grudge against them. She still tries to help them, she knows it is dangerous, but her connection to them and to this place is strong. I would even say that we can see these traits in her father in Help Wanted 2, despite the fact that he doesn't have a single voice line there. As we will find out closer to the end of Ruin, it comes not only from her family's connection to Fazbear, but also from her loneliness. Her father went to the Pizzaplex and disappeared, trying to stop Glitchtrap even before Ruin has happened. Her friends abandoned her at her birthday party at the Pizzaplex, and only Gregory and Roxy were there for her. Although there is an interesting theory why Gregory could befriend Cassie, but we are gonna need a foil hat for that. So, the timeline is set up in such a way that it seems Gregory has befriended Cassie in the time when he was GGY, and GGY wouldn't do anything without sinister reasons. In this case, it could be that he was trying to get closer to her father, who possibly has been at odds with Glitchtrap after Bonnie disappeared, and that's why Cassie's father tries to stop Glitchtrap in Help Wanted 2. To get closer to Cassie's father, it could be that GGY got rid of Cassie's friends to take their place, and that's why we see so many missing children on the newspaper. Foil hat off. Whether Gregory did this or not, Cassie literally has no one in her life that we know of except Gregory and Roxy. Ruin is built around the feeling of pain. Pain for Glamrocks, pain for the Pizzaplex, pain from the hopelessness of the situation Cassie finds herself in, pain for the injustice that has befallen upon everyone in this story. And it feels good to experience it with a character who cares. A summary of the contrast between Cassie and Gregory can be seen in the interview with G-Top from 2024, where he calls Cassie a healer, and this in return means that Gregory is a damage dealer. While Cassie cares about everyone in the Pizzaplex, Roxy is a special case. From Escape the Pizzaplex, we know that Cassie already was attacked once by Glamrocks, when Gregory was GGY. But even then, Roxy for Cassie is like an older sister. When Cassie makes decisions, she sometimes asks herself what Roxy would do, and cherishes every moment she can be with her. GGY was using Roxy in his schemes, forcing Roxy to play a cruel prank on Cassie, causing her to feel the pain of Roxy's betrayal. However, when Cassie realizes GGY tampered with Roxy's programming, she immediately takes action and reprograms her. Escape the Pizzaplex is not the best interactive novel, but even then, it shows how fundamentally different Cassie and Gregory are. In both Escape the Pizzaplex and Ruin, despite the fact that Glamrocks are trying to kill her, she tries to help them even though she is scared. The only tragic casualty of Cassie's actions was Monty, but it was an accident. Feel the difference. Her moments with Roxy are one of the best things this franchise has ever produced. She was able to wake up Roxy from her misery, and she brought a redemption to them all, something that many desired.
Your special day. I remember. Your special day. Do you still like carrot cake?
Happy birthday!
It has been some time since I saw you last. If I remember correctly, it is on the 11th. I remember because you are number 1. Twice.
That should do it.
I smell pizza!
Have you booked your party? I'm sure your friends will show up this time.
It's also a good dive into their characters and the similarities between them. Both Cassie and Roxy are lone wolves. Both want validation from others. When Roxy saw Cassie crying alone, she most likely saw herself in her. They understand each other better than anyone. But now Cassie has to make a choice that a compassionate character like her should never face. And this reminds us about another important part that the protagonist must have. A flaw. Protagonist must have a flaw. And Cassie's flaw is that she is too benevolent and naive. And this leads her right into the mimic's trap. Watching Cassie make a decision here makes us feel for her even more. Not only we watch her sacrifice her friend, but we also understand that this all was for nothing. Even without knowing who the mimic is, Gregory is already most likely under the player's suspicions. But Cassie is compassionate to a fault, and this leads to a catastrophe. Her tragedy is kinda similar to Glamrock Freddy's. Freddy is also very naive and kind, and this also leads to his downfall. Or at least it was supposed to be like that until it was cut from the game. After sharing emotions and this journey with her, we are watching a tragic finale, and like her father before that, we were unable to do anything.
I'm sorry.
Gregory? No!
While we are still stuck in a limbo about what's next, there are a great amount of possibilities. One of them is that Cassie died, the most boring and strange one, considering how she hears Roxy after the credits, but some people truly believe that. Another popular one is that Cassie will become one with the Vanny mask and some new personality will be born. It usually revolves around the discussion why the mask behaves so strange. It's almost like it can change reality for Cassie, place blocks or open paths. And this leads to questions what was actually real and how much Cassie was affected by the mask. A different possible path is that Cassie will be able to stave off the mask's influence and become a sort of a junkie, repairing glamrocks and planning what to do next, possibly appearing in the story when the right time will come. Last popular possibility is that Cassie could have fallen with the elevator somewhere deeper and find the ruins of MCM. The only facts that can indirectly speak in favor of this are some costumes from MCM that can be seen in Ruin, and strange glowing rocks in the cave, that are reminiscent of this molten metal in the MCM pipes. Also from the UI description of Secret of the Mimic, we know that it's supposed to look like someone watches a reel on a projector. It could be that Cassie is the one watching it. No idea if Arnold has any relation to Cassie, but if he is her grandfather, it would be fitting for her to find the way to deal with the Mimic by watching a recording of Arnold's actions. No matter what her fate after Ruin will be, there is one truth that cannot be denied. Protagonists in stories tend to change after their journey, and everything that happened to Cassie will scar her, probably leaving her bitter, distrustful and even vengeful. In this case, those who think Cassie is dead will be half right, because Cassie who we knew and who we learned to respect has indeed died in Ruin. Thank you for watching. Press like and subscribe if you liked this video, watch another one if you want to. Good luck and I'll see you again soon.